Okay, so let me introduce this session. It's in conversation with. We're talking about. That's the important information bit done. So we're talking about the future. Is there a future for students in radio? On my far right is program director of Kerrang Radio and Q Radio, James Walsh. Presenter at BBC 6 Music, Joe Good. And broadcast assistant of the Chris Evans Breakfast Show on Radio 2, Graham Williams.
Okay, I'm kind of sorry I went home last night now. Public spanking at the Town Hall Square if you do it again! Okay, well now, you'd probably like that as well, wouldn't you? Naughty lot. Okay, welcome to this, which will be a casual conversation, even though we're kind of weirdly spaced out on these couches, about you guys, and about student radio, and about what it means to be doing it now, and what it could mean for you in the future, and how to make the most of it, and how to get the best out of yourselves while you're at uni and not shit-faced everything. Let's start with some introductions. Talk a little bit about yourself. I loved how you were clapping. That's naughty. You're a man in a position of authority and influence here.
Sorry about that.
Awful. None of that kind of stuff ever happens with radio stations or the people working in them.
Never seen a television be thrown out in the hotel room ever. Never seen that. I've never seen the fire brigade before. Giving you ideas now. Sorry. So a bit of a brief overview of how I got into radio. I think with respect to how things are currently as well. When I first started, I did a BTEC in media studies, went to university and studied broadcasting, and ended up with 3 job offers at the end of my university course. Part of that was down to the number of work placements I'd done, but life was different then. The industry was very different. There are less opportunities now than perhaps there were back then. So the point of making there really is you have to think rather differently these days as to how you get into the industry. From university, started as a journalist in local radio, began at a station called Hallam FM in Sheffield as a newsreader and journalist. From there, went across to work for a time in car magazines. I thought I'd try something a little bit different from radio. I've been doing it 3 years, so this industry being as it is, you know, you can sort of transfer a lot of your skills in radio elsewhere. So I gave writing a go for a while for a car magazine. Unfortunately, it didn't last long. I crashed an Aston Martin, so got asked to leave fairly quickly. From there I went into television for a little while. I tried a few things there. I ended up as a reporter for Anglia TV in Norwich, where I killed a pig.
On purpose, in a Ozzy Osbourne display of rock?
I wish, I really wish. I was doing a report to camera, and the thing is with Anglia TV, you tend to do a lot of sort of pig farms and other kind of those sort of stories. And I'm there with the microphone talking to the camera, you know, talking about being on a pig farm in Swaffham and step back and step on the pig. So I'm sort of in the middle of doing this link, and I know I've stepped on something, and I know that something squealed. Okay, I think I've just killed a pig. Didn't last long there. So came back to radio. I've never really lost the love for radio. I think once it gets under your skin, you never lose it. It's such an exciting medium. So remained there, got into, eventually, cut a long story short, got into producing breakfast shows, which was probably one of the highlights of my career, actually producing breakfast shows, concentrating on one show and coming up with ideas and developing it. That was in Galaxy in Yorkshire, producing a breakfast show there, which is now Capital Yorkshire. Went across to Manchester, to Galaxy in Manchester, where I became Deputy Programme Director. So started sort of ascending the ladder until eventually going to the BBC to do a bit of producing in BBC local radio. Didn't much like that, to tell you the truth. Went in to try a few new things, to innovate, and at the time things weren't probably in the right place for that kind of thinking. So I came back to commercial radio, and that's where I've been ever since, at Kerrang Radio, where I feel very lucky to work for a radio station that does things a little bit differently. Of course, you'd expect me to say that I love the radio station that I programme, but I genuinely love being a part of the radio industry that is where we're able to think a little bit differently, where we're able to cause a bit of trouble, innovate, be a little bit loud and leery, and try new things. The radio industry at the moment, to my mind, is a little bit boring. Radio stations, particularly commercial radio, is a little bit on the dull side. I don't think it's necessarily looking to the future as it should be. It genuinely isn't that little wooden box with an aerial in the corner anymore. It's all about video, social networking, so much more than just being radio. The smartphone is going to be a major thing for you. But the point I make is I think that radio is a little bit boring at the moment. I think that the good news is that you can change that. Sure.
I'm glad you mentioned social networking there, because before we do your spiel, you are at liberty to ask us questions during this conversation via the means of Twitter. And let us tell you how.
Who's got an iPhone or Twitter on their phone, or BlackBerry, other smartphones are available? We're using the hashtag SOACon, which you'll be familiar with, and classic producer mode. I've got it here. So any questions that you hashtag SOACon, then we'll get. If you don't know what a hashtag is, it's like a little waffle.
And thank you for making that clear. Okay, so questions to the producer.
I'm just typing it in now.
Yeah. Good. Who will, once he's done that important bit of typing, tell you the route he took to join us today.
I finished typing.
Well done.
You can also find us on Twitter if that's a bit easier, because I don't know how easy this is going to be. I started at Leeds Student Radio at LSR.
Where's LSR? They're usually here. Oh, there you go.
About one person. And straight away knew that I had to get as much experience under my belt as possible. So I did everything that I could possibly do at Leeds Student Radio, just to simply build up the skills, the basic skills. And then during my first year of uni, kind of went a bit scattergun on it, and approached as many different stations, commercial and local BBC, as I could, and asked them if I could just help out. Now this is, I only graduated last summer, so this is about 3 or 4 years ago. And like James said, things were a little bit different even just then, in that BBC local radio stations just said, yes, you could come and help us. And that would have been fine. And even commercial radio stations I found were a little bit easier at the time to go and help out and just print off texts or make tea or whatever. So in that first year, I started helping out with several local BBC radio stations, both in my home county in Lincolnshire and in Leeds, and a few others down south. At the same time, I was making trips from Leeds down to London to go and help out at XFM, and also did a month-long internship at Six Music, which was one of the best months of my life. And you can apply, on the topic of whether there's a future and the opportunities for students in radio, bbc.co.uk/work experience is where you can find some incredible internships of varying lengths at all the different BBC local radio stations. So I can thoroughly recommend doing that. During my month at Six, there was an opportunity for me to start answering phones at Radio 2. And so I started doing that, and did that kind of on and off throughout my second and third years. At the same time, there was a degree going on at this time, at the point as well, half. And at the same time, a job came up with the BBC in Leeds, who at the time didn't have a BBC introducing show for West Yorkshire. Well, they did, but it was coming from Hull. Now, how many guys were in the specialist playlist music meeting with the guys I'm introducing earlier. So great guys doing great things for new and emerging music. And it seemed odd to me that Leeds and West Yorkshire, as a thriving local music community, didn't have its own local introducing show. So I kind of beat down their door and they eventually said, okay. And so we set up a 1 hour pre-recorded live show once a week in the middle of the night. And throughout the 2 years that we worked on it, it became a 3 hour live show in the evening. So did that. Third year of uni, started going from picking up phones at Radio 2 to picking up broadcast assistant shifts. Started on Steve Wright in the afternoon, which mainly consisted of getting his breakfast and Listerine, and then from there that led to other shifts on the station, such as Chris Evans, and then when I graduated, they offered me a full-time gig as a broadcast assistant on the Chris Evans Breakfast Show, which I'll echo what James said. I love my job, and it's just the most fun. And so I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, but I love it. There's nothing else that I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to do. So that's kind of...
Nothing else?
No. Well, when I was a student...
Depends if you were staying at the jury's inn.
I was getting home at 3 o'clock in the morning when I was a student, and now that's what time I wake up. But yeah, well worthwhile. So that's briefly a kind of an overview of my route.
Here he is. He's the living, breathing proof. I think that kind of deserves a bit of a... Isn't it? It's a good story. It's a good story.
It's a good story. Even the history.
I'll keep mine relatively brief, and apologies to all the chicks and a few boys actually who already heard this yesterday during our Sound Women chat. But I am a fully fledged, full-on radio geek and dweeb from the age of about 11 when I went on a school trip, again in Norfolk, eh? Yeah, I'm telling you. We went to, this guy had, he did a show on Radio Norfolk, I think, and he was Alan Partridge. He was him. He had elbow patches and everything. And it was a school trip, and the idea is that we were to go to his barn, which had a little studio in the back and make a radio show. And I promise this sounds really pathetic, but I actually sat down behind the desk and just went, yes, I'll do this forever. And I didn't talk on that broadcast. I actually drove the desk and produced it and organised it, but I've still got it on a cassette, but my voice is not on it. And then I stayed where I was, went through my teens, obsessed over radio, and at the age of 17, while I was doing my A-levels, in Northumberland, so I know that we were talking about small towns and how difficult that can be. I was in one of those when I was a teenager. The thing that changed my life was electronic music, the Essential Selection on Radio 1 on Friday nights at 7 o'clock, wherever I was, I stopped everything and I went to my radio and I listened to that music, and it changed my entire life, my entire outlook. And I started to sort of make some inquiries, and as will often be the case, I was given one contact, one name, one number, one tiny splinter of opportunity, one little bit of luck, and I made the right phone call on the right day, refused to talk to anybody else but the name that I'd been given, and something in what I said to him struck a chord, and he became my mentor, and he worked for a company called AA Roadwatch. Which is, yes, part of the AA. And so my Saturday job was that I would get up again at 3 in the morning, drive from Northumberland to Manchester, and I would do about 12 hours, well, sometimes I don't remember. I did travel bulletins on local radio stations all that day, and then I got back in my Fiesta, drove all the way home, last orders at the pub, stayed doing my A-levels, and he offered me a job 3 days before my last exam, and I moved to Manchester 2 days after that. Now, I was actually at the point of university application, and I decided to go with the job. And for me, it was the right thing to do. I bitterly regret, though, that I didn't get to do all of this stuff, especially the stuff that the jury's in, that you're all enjoying as part of, doing student radio, because I think it's mega. But for me, I started reading travel news, and then I pestered my favourite radio station, which was Kiss 102, which then turned into Galaxy, to let me be part of the team and start to do tech hopping and whatnot. And then one presenter started to make a bit of a thing of my travel bulletins, and so I kind of came to the ears of the programme controllers. Then they needed a newsreader and they couldn't find one, and I went, I'll do it. So So I did it for 2 weeks and convinced them to let me do it forever. And so I went on to the breakfast show and kept going and pushing and pulling, and then did a few little cover shifts here and there, kept being quite noisy, as you can imagine. I didn't really hide my light under a bushel. And then I just waited and waited and bided my time and spent entire weekends in studios going like this at 3 a.m. And that was it. When all my mates were at the jury's inn having a right laugh. And then eventually somebody made a wrong foot, a presenter was moved along, did something naughty, and there I was, and that was my first show. So, you know, that was my particular tale, and I just did all the things you meant to do, and I worked for lots of different places, and I went and did telly for a while. I was on MTV, leathered at raves, going, "Way, there's a David Guetta video," and that was all fun. But for me, it just always comes back to radio, and radio is the thing that I adore. And my favourite radio station in the whole wide world is BBC Six Music. But I always worked in commercial radio, and to be quite frank, I kind of thought that the BBC boat had not only passed me by, but sort of honked in my face as it had done so. And so I didn't necessarily think that I would manage it, but hey, I did, you know, and so it's a very, very nice position that I'm in. And it's a position that I'm now moving away from because I'm working to train and mentor and help you guys to bridge the gap between your talent and some employment in a new thing, what I'm starting, but I can't tell you about it yet, because I've got to finish my own degree first.
I think the key thing here with what we've got in common is the fact that we've got as much experience as we possibly could, and that's the beauty of student radio, is that it gives you that practical experience, and I never had that. We tried to set up our own student radio station at the university I went to. It was a 3-year course. After 2 years I quit because I got myself into a little bit of trouble. We'd taken over the post-grad course studios and unfortunately locked ourselves in and with the course tutors banging on the door outside. So you know, that was kind of how my university course ended. But that experience, not the bit about getting locked in and the threats to call the police and all that stuff, but the experience of broadcasting, of actually doing it, no matter what, and taking that chance was what got me a job. And I think that experience, the work placements and all that stuff, is what helps. It's the practical experience. You can have as many qualifications as you like, but at the end of the day, there's no substitute for experience, and that's the brilliance of student radio.
So am I the only one out of us to have done student radio?
Actually, yes.
Well, I think that's quite an interesting thing in that I've come across so many people who's doing a media degree or a broadcast degree of some sort. I've come across so many people who have said, who have left their degree and then been bitter because they think the industry owe them a job, or have done student radio and won a student radio award and then not found themselves on Radio 1, and they're bitter because they think the industry owes them a job. And even though you find yourselves doing media-related degrees or in student radio, the essential thing is getting out there and meeting, if you're a presenter, meeting people like James, and talking to them and making contacts and going to their stations and going and experiencing the industry as well. I think the very fact that you guys are here puts you ahead, just in your attitude that you want to learn and be part of it.
One of the I shouldn't say this perhaps, but radio is unfortunately full of rude, obnoxious bastards. They won't get back to your email. Don't ever expect a response from most radio programmers because they're busy, they've got stuff on, and quite often they are quite rude and obnoxious. But you'll find that you'll have to keep banging on the door if you want to get that conversation with them. It is really difficult because we do get hundreds and hundreds a week of people wanting to talk to us, but you know, keep on banging on the door. You'll get people who email you once and you never hear from them again. Huge mistake. They'll sit there and go, "Oh, rude bastard." But actually, it might just be that we were a little bit busy that week. But you've got to keep trying, keep knocking on the door, and if the knocking doesn't work, just start kicking the door in.
Yeah, we'll come back to this. We'll talk about content. We'll talk about how you do make yourself heard, because I know that that's something that's on your mind. We'll get to that. We've got a question.
A question on Twitter, #SRAcon. Don Garcia, where's Don?
Hang on, there were two from different bits of the room, that's weird. Is it you over there? Right, there you go, right,
there it is,
right, okay.
He says, #SRAcon. Is there likely to be more job opportunities away from the classic presenter-producer roles in the future?
Yes. And I'm really glad you've asked that question, because it kind of brings me back to exactly what I wanted to talk to you guys about. The great advantage that you have that we did not is that you have the internet. Okay? You have every opportunity, you have every tool at your disposal to create genuinely innovative and unique content. And even better than that, you don't need to wait for a program controller to invite you to do so. You can just be doing. And you can therefore take the power for yourself, because if you are doing something genuinely great, if you're building your own audience using social networking, if you're podcasting, if you're video blogging, it doesn't just have to be radio. Think big. If you're doing something, then you will come to the attention of the people you seek, and it will be on your own terms. As long as the quality of your content is mega, as long as you're working hard to do something that's genuinely good, that's interesting, that you're passionate about, that you're into, then there are now people who are looking for you. And that's the slight difference. So yes, you should be always banging on those doors, but you should also be establishing yourself as an autonomous thing, as a brand and identity. That doesn't have to come through a radio station anymore. Okay, it can come from you.
As James touched on earlier, radio isn't just a thing in the corner that you switch on anymore. It is iPhone apps, it is video content, it is online, it's social media. No, we're going to be moving so far away from just classic presenter-producer roles. As the industry, okay, in some ways the industry is getting smaller with jobs, but in many ways the industry reach is getting larger, and with all this great opportunity with the internet. And I've lost my train of thought. But, oh yeah, is there anybody in the room who doesn't just want to be a presenter or producer, who maybe wants to be a technician or work in online or events? Great.
Yes.
Yes, well done.
Sponsorship and promotions, the wheels of the cog, the thing that make it actually happen. You're the people that we need to innovate and, again, move the industry on from those old farts and those archaic ways of thinking and doing that are holding everybody back.
And if you've got a great idea, approach the industry with it. Don't just give it away for free. But if you've got a great idea of how a radio station can use Twitter or video content to its advantage, develop it and then flog it. Because it's the future of the way the medium's going.
It's really nice to see that not everyone wants to be a presenter as well, because actually I love what I currently do, but the most satisfying job I ever had in radio was producing a breakfast show. And I mean that. And I love what I do now, and I take nothing negative away from it, but the best job, in my view, was producing one particular breakfast show. Yeah, I got none of the glory. You could never expect someone else's name is on the door. If the show wins awards, you'll never be the one that's called up on the stage, but you'll know that actually you were a significant part of that show's success. When you see the response from the audience, it's not you getting all the emails going, "I love you." It's it's someone else, but you'll take satisfaction from the fact that you're the driving force behind that program. So don't just think that wanting to be a radio presenter and nothing else is good enough anymore. Consider what else is involved in that. In commercial radio, each and every radio presenter has to be part salesman these days, because you're selling, obviously, the music, the brand, whatever, but you're selling promotions. You're going on air and you're talking about commercial activity, and you have to think of new and innovative ways that do that without pissing your audience off. Because the most annoying thing on commercial radio, let's face it, are the adverts. But trying to find new ways of reaching your audience in advertising and in commercial terms is part of the job now as a presenter.
And you have to stand for something. You have to be about something. It's not enough to just go, yeah, well, I'm a presenter. Well, who are you? What are you about? What are your driving things in life? It doesn't have to be anything huge and complicated. You don't have to be a specialist. You don't have to be an absolute authority. But you do have to be a fully formed entity, because otherwise why would listeners want to engage with you? Especially if you're only going to be allowed to talk for about 30 odd seconds. Okay, you've got to think about that. And it's a real skill that you, at this point at student radio, can really practice and hone and learn to be able to be eloquent and brilliant and funny and intelligent and erudite, or whatever it is you want to be within the confines of the modern commercial sector. That's an interesting point.
Let's try and wash through some of these questions.
Thank you for the questions, by the way.
Yeah.
Nice one.
My
Okay.
phone's exploding, right? Ella Griffith, where are you, Elle Diddy. She says, and this is just really quickly, my degree isn't radio based. Do you think this will hinder me when trying to get into the industry versus people with radio degrees? No.
No.
Just that's an end of.
No, and because you're working in student radio, you know, when you go to speak to James is going to go, what have you been doing? You're going to go, well, I've been working for my student radio station where I've been doing this, and he's going to go, nice one, let's talk. Don't worry about that.
I've got a friend who produces Breakfast show on a BBC local radio station. He did geography. My exec producer on the Chris Evans Breakfast show did drama. I've never been asked what degree I got, a first, if you're asking. But no radio station boss has ever asked me for that bit of paper with my grade breakdown. Don't worry about it. Just don't worry about it. Matthew Aidan Farrow. Hey Diddy, where are you? Question for the panel. Hashtag SRAcon. What's the most unusual way you've heard that someone got a job in radio?
Oh, I know this one. Oh, well, I know one. A great friend and a lovely lady is Namone, who's also on BBC Six Music. You may or may not know Namone. She does Weekend Breakfast. Namone and I used to work together a very long time ago at Galaxy 102, except initially. Well, actually, Namone started when it was Kiss 102, and this is a legendary story. And she went in and was working in sales. So she was working downstairs. And one day the boss was downstairs, I don't know, having some conversation with somebody in sales, and Namone went, hey, could you pass the 2 eggs?
That was a great impression, Joe.
And he went, oh, say that again. She went, what do you mean the 2 eggs? He went, you, upstairs. Right? It's a little bit more complicated than that. But that's essentially what happened. True fact. Anything is possible. She was in the building, she was in the radio station, so she had places where she could go.
Anything to add, James?
Well, you can certainly shag your way to the top.
That's all right. Jury's in.
It has been known. It has been known. I'm not going to name names, but I've seen that happen. Unfortunately, it's outrageous. It's a disgrace and despicable. But unfortunately, I guess that's the same in whatever industry you're in. I regret it myself. I guess probably the best example I can give on this question is our former evening show presenter, Henry, came to us from a building site. He spent every day as a labourer on the building site, listening to the radio, sitting there listening to the presenter and thinking, this is shit, I could do better than that. So he knocked on the door one day and said, can I come and do a radio programme? Well, you're a builder. And he says, yeah, but I can do radio. Okay, come in and prove it. Came in, did some demos, ended up putting him on the air, and within a year we gave him the evening show. Anything is possible in radio if you work hard enough at it. Keep knocking on the door. Sometimes you may be told you're not good enough to be a presenter, but maybe there's something else for you. I think that level of honesty is really important. Some programmers will possibly ignore you if they don't think you're good enough. But I like to think that most of us will tell you if we don't think you're good enough. But in his case, I just think that was really brave, and I think you have to be really brave.
And persistent. What you touched on there, James, is that you might get ignored, but be persistent. Whether you want to be a presenter or you want to just get experience as a producer at a station or whatever, if you find that people aren't responding to your emails, don't be annoying, but be persistent, and that's the way forward. I was persistent, James. You may not remember, but when I was in my second year, I sent you 2 demos.
Oh, here we go.
The first one he said I didn't talk enough, and the second one he said I talked too much. Then I stopped the emails.
As long as I got back to you, that's the main thing.
Yeah, that's really
When someone say, you didn't get back to me, we try.
Oh, cool. Right, another one.
Was it helpful?
Extremely.
Okay, good, that's all right.
That's why I'm producing that. Phew. Mark Lyle, where are you? Yes, a lot of fans in the building. We've got Demo Factor later. Yeah. What would you put on your demos to stand out if you sent it to your current station? And ignore that last bit. What would you put on your demo to stand out?
Okay, well for me, because I work with presenters a lot. I work with presenters at your stage, so I tell you what, I would tell you if we were doing one-to-one, which is absolutely positively at all times be yourself, but know who you're sending your demo to. It's okay, by the way, to tailor your demo to that radio station and to speak as if you are speaking on that radio station. If I was making a demo for BBC Six Music, I would just be me and play some records that I blooming love and talk about where I came across them or whatever. That's what Six Music is about, and I would just be me and be genuine. It depends where your demo is going to. If you're going to a commercial radio station, prove that you can do the nuts and bolts. Prove that you can do the things that are essential, the things James was talking about before, that you can do live reads, and you can cover a promotion in a way that's not totally lame, that you can talk about the station at large, and that you obviously know about the station at large. So put a bit of that stuff in, but make sure you do put your personality, I hate the word personality links, put your personality link in. Just put you in, doing what you do. And you've been working on student radio stations, so you know what your strengths are. I would always put in, for example, a bit with me talking to a listener on the phone, because that's something I'm good at, I know that. I probably wouldn't do so. I'm nervous at interviews still after all of this time, so I might be a bit wary of putting that in. I'm going to play to my strengths when I send the demo in, and I am going to adhere to the 3-minute thing, because it is kind of relevant. We don't want massive long things. And somebody said something to me the other week which was pretty good. Put your best link close to the beginning and your second best link at the end, because that's when the person comes back in. You want to make sure that it's got a good flow going all the way through it, but I'm sure all this will be covered in Demo Factor later. What are you looking for?
Well, it's amazing how many people...
Yeah, James, what are you looking for?
Not too much talking, and don't talk too much.
And more talking.
And more talking, please, yeah. Just to confuse matters. I'm really sorry, I feel like I've killed your dreams.
I think he survived. Look, he's all right.
I think he did all right.
Yeah.
Demonstrate your passion, obviously, for radio, but I'm with Joe. Tune your specific demo and your CV into the potential employer you're targeting. I get so many demos from people who are established in the industry, even, who work for radio stations, really mainstream stations, and send me demos where they're just going, oh, you're listening to blah, 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 and talking for 20 seconds and then playing another song. That was take that, here's Michael Bublé, sending that to Kerrang Radio or even Q Radio. And I sit there and I say, well, what's in there for us? That's not how we do things. They clearly never listen to the radio station, they're just after a job. What's more, they'll send you a generic letter which says, Dear Sir, / Madam, or if they do write, Dear James, they'll put, I would really love to work for your radio station. And you can tell it's just a generic letter. They've not sat down and really thought about why they'd like to work for your specific station, because each station, each network, they're all different, and you have to really think about targeting them individually. But it's really important that actually, as I say, that you're able to do that. Also, if you're writing or sending a demo to, let's say, a station director or someone who looks after more than one station. So let's say it's someone like Richard Park, who runs Capital and Heart, 2 different types of station. Send a demo that demonstrates how flexible you can be. That you can do, let's say, BBC local style radio. You can do LBC kind of talk radio. You can do, if you are capable of doing that, then demonstrate it in your demo.
What you're saying about being specific in emails as well, I've had it on the production side of things where someone's emailed me and said, I'm doing such and such, can you give me some advice? Be more specific. I wouldn't walk up to any of these guys or any of you guys and say, can I have some advice? What? On what? On what do you want to be presented? What is it that you want advice on? Do you want to ask me what I did when I was in uni? You can be specific. Don't just copy and paste an email.
Yeah, no, that's really important, because, personally, I have an open door policy, especially for female broadcasters, but for anyone. But yeah, you're free to approach me, but approach me with something. Put a link to something that you've been doing. If you've got a demo for me, put it on SoundCloud so I can just do a one-click to it so that I don't have to download it. Send me an email which tells me about you and what you're doing. Don't make it too long, just make it short and sweet. But yes, I'm here for you, and we have all been through this process, so we want to help you. But help yourselves in how you come to us, because yes, I'm exactly the same. If it comes to me and it's ill thought out, and it's just obviously cut and paste, and it's obviously gone everywhere, you've got to remember, we've all been doing this bloody ages. We'll see you coming if you're not genuine. Why would we help you?
On the female front as well, any females here who want to be a radio presenter? Okay. Don't accept the old shit from the old farts in the industry who believe that you are only good for being a giggly
Women
girl
don't like listening to other women on the radio.
It's bollocks. It's absolute bollocks that actually, whether you're male or female, it's all about whether you're a good presenter or not. It has nothing to do with what you are. And there's still this belief in the industry, still after all these years, that the female is only really good for a giggly girl sidekick, and especially in commercial radio. So be really wary of that. And really sell yourself as a presenter and and don't do yourself down just because you look at the industry and see so many females relegated to that role. That's the old days, they're gone.
Yeah, but you have to have the confidence to stick your neck out, girls. You've got to, you've got to believe in yourself, and you can come and get advice, but you've got to you've got to put your head above, and it's again, I think about being pushy and a bit persistent, and it's about believing in yourselves. You boys, you've got a lot of that already. It's not quite so easy for the girls a lot of the time, I always say when I receive demos from you boys, and you may think this is unfair, but I'm not asked. When I get demos from boys, I expect your demos to be shit hot. I do, straight off from you boys. From the girls, I'm more often than not looking for the potential in you. And it's wonderful on the times when I do get a demo from a girl that's fully formed, but I don't expect it because I understand personally that it's a slightly different route. But look, you've got now people telling you that the industry is not like that anymore. Push through.
And think about how you package your demo as well, and how you approach the individual involved. One of the best demos I ever had actually wasn't the best demo I'd ever had. It was the way that it was presented. It was an enormous box. It was absolutely huge. It arrived at the radio station. We wondered what the hell it was. We were all quite excited in the office about it, unwrapped it, and we found right at the bottom, in amongst all the bubble wrap, one CD. Really simple, and okay, you could say that it was a bit disappointing, really. But actually, listen to the demo, it was all right. But did we get that person in? Of course we did, because they demonstrated that kind of thinking, and we like that.
Yeah, but girls don't send like pink paper and hearts and smelly shit. Don't do that.
We've actually had a tweet saying we'll wrap it up.
Oh,
so
rude.
Is
that for one of you? I wish I could get out. Go on.
So I think it'd be nice to maybe give just one top tip of how to sort of make the jump from student radio into starting to get some industry experience. I put this out on Twitter earlier in the day when I knew I was going to be speaking about, are there opportunities for students in the radio industry? And the resounding answer is absolutely yes. If you're good, there are jobs. If you're good, there are opportunities. Yeah, the radio industry is getting smaller and there are cuts. And like we touched on before, the opportunities are different to just the classic presenter-producer roles. But yes, absolutely, if you're good, there are opportunities if you go grab them. So, James, what's your top one tip of how to make the jump from student radio to the industry?
Get yourself out there, target specific programmers and bombard them with emails, and don't take no for an answer to the conversation. Just get that conversation. Take pride in what you're doing in terms of the material that you're gathering. Archive your material. Package it up. Enter the Student Radio Awards. They're there for you to enter. Why the hell wouldn't you enter the Student Radio Awards?
Quite.
I went last year. It was really interesting, actually. There's such a huge degree of passion. At the same time, noticed a little bit of, how should we say it without being controversial, there's a kind of belief that student radio is a bit shit, isn't it? It's, chance for you could be a bit shit, you can do this and do that. Oh, when I was in student radio, we just used to piss about and it was all a bit shit. Actually, it's not. I've heard some incredible student radio entries, genuinely superb entries. And I think that's an opportunity for you right there to get yourself out there. We gave the winner of Best Male last year a shot on Q Radio, and he was fantastic, and he's just been snapped up by Capital. There are enormous opportunities for you there to really gather together your audio and archive. The other thing I was going to say is innovate, experiment, try new things. If it doesn't work out, so what? Nobody dies, it's only radio. But try new things, innovate, come up with an idea, see if it sticks. That's incredibly important because the way things are in radio at the moment, you listen to a lot of radio stations and you hear 30-second links. That was, this is, here's the weather. Isn't the world a great place? Actually, it's fucking not sometimes. Sometimes it is raining. Sometimes it is drizzling outside. Why would you play U2's Beautiful Day on a crappy day? Stuff like that. It's incredibly important to make sure that everything you're doing is for the good of the future of radio and for your career. The future of radio is not necessarily music. Music is not enough anymore. People have new ways of capturing music. To my mind, the future of radio is about the radio presenter, about charismatic personality. I don't mean personality as in celebrities, bollocks to that, because celebrities often make rubbish radio presenters. People who live, breathe and eat and shit radio, they're the people that make great radio presenters. The charismatic ones who innovate and try new things, and I'm really conscious that I'm going on and on and on about this, but I really believe strongly that radio has an incredible future, and you're the people who are going to change it.
That's cheesy, but it's so true. It's true. It's true, it's true, it's true. And my point will follow on directly from that, which is just to reiterate to you that you're so lucky right now. You have an entire radio station at your disposal. It's yours. You can do what you want. You can try things and fail. You can try things and discover something about yourself. You can try all the different roles that you might like to fulfill and discover the thing that is best for you. This is your golden opportunity. As I said right at the beginning, I really would have loved to have been able to do student radio. I would have absolutely loved it. I would love to do it now because of the freedom that you have. Please make the most of it. Absolutely make the most of it, because you will regret it if you don't. You've got all the facilities, you've got the studios, you've got the editing stuff, and more than that, you've got all of the rest of you. I really hope that throughout this week you are all meeting each other in the right way, on the right level, and you are making connections whereby you will see each other again and over and over and over in the future. You may work at the same radio stations, you may end up as writing partners, you may end up producing shows together. You just don't know. It's in your hands. Do the most you can.
Don't kill any pigs.
Don't kill any pigs.
Completely agree with those. Enter Student Radio Awards. The industry sits up and takes note. It's as simple as that. If you want to be a presenter, get some coaching. The guys outside of What Goes On Media, check those guys out, because they will help you to improve your craft and help you to get a gig.
As will I. If you come and see me, I'll be in the atrium. So if you have questions for me, come there.
Be persistent, learn skills and make contacts. And those two things are the same, the two sides of the same coin. You've got to learn your craft and get good at what you do on any level of radio and be excellent at it, but then you can't just sit on that skill. You've got to go and meet people and say, I can do this, I can do it for your station. Can I help you? Can I be of use to you? But if you do get in the station, you've not got the skills to back it up, it's kind of pointless. So meet people, target who you meet as well. If you want to work in music radio, don't target a producer at Radio 4. Make sure you've decided what you want to do and be persistent with the people that you meet. Is my job.
All right, and that's it. Thank you very much, everyone. This was a good set up again. What have you done now?
Thank you very much.
The police are here.